Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It is now 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Franco, and I'll be your host for this virtual campus tour. This session is one of many taking place as part of Ryerson's virtual open house, which was run this week, November 9th to 13th, and we'll be back next week as well, November 16th to the 20th. I encourage you to visit our website and register for any other sessions that you are interested in. Now, to begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land Ryerson's campus stands on today, the place where we work and learn. Ryerson and Toronto are in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is something that is important to us here at Ryerson, and we will continue to work on the path toward reconciliation. Now, a quick update on campus operations. Ryerson has shifted to an essential services model to help prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have put together a series of these virtual sessions to share information and connect with you, the applicant. Ryerson is still working diligently to provide students with fulsome experiences while still maintaining the health and safety of our community. Now, just in case this is your first time using the Zoom platform, a couple tips and tricks to share with you to get the most out of your experience today. Here with us. Throughout the tour, we do encourage you to ask us questions. We do have an entire team here on the back end ready to answer those questions. So to do so, you can hover your mouse over the bottom of the Zoom window where there should be a Q&A icon. Click on that and that should open up a new dialog box, and that is where you can submit to us your questions. If you're having any audio or video issues right now, perhaps, feel free to also flag it in the Q&A, and one of our staff members will be able to assist you with troubleshooting. You can also rearrange the screen however you see fit. So if you want to see our presenters on a larger screen, or you want to see the campus on a larger screen, you can do that. What you do on your screen will not affect the viewing experience of others. We've also enabled closed captioning to ensure accessibility. So if you do require closed captioning, there's an option available for you also at the bottom of the Zoom window. And final note, all of our recordings for our virtual open house will be available on our Ryerson at Home website at a later date. So that is all for me. I would like to now introduce to you our student tour guides who will be walking you through our campus virtually. So if Salome, Martha, and Zoe can come on, and they will be your tour guides for the rest of this tour. Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Martha, and I'm in my 4th year of computer science.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm in my 3rd year of biology.
And hi, everyone. My name's Salome, and I am in my 4th year of hospitality and tourism management, so in the business faculty, and I am also an international student. I moved to Toronto from Barbados. And I will actually be taking you to our first stop on today's tour, which will be the Nelson Mandela Walk. So where we are right now is in the podium building at Ryerson, which is a central place on campus for student services, academic classrooms, professor offices, and it's also connected to our library building. So where we are is the service hub, and Ryerson was actually the first university in Canada to implement this type of one-stop shop service that meets the needs of all student questions that you have. And the way it works is it's a kiosk system where you enter your information and the problem or question that you're looking to get answered. And you receive a ticket number that will be called out and also appear on screen when a service hub representative is ready to assist you. And the great thing about this service is that all types of students are able to access this service, so including prospective students like yourselves. And you can ask all types of questions here related to tuition, course enrollment, anything basically they can answer. And you'll also notice on screen that it's a nice seating area with bright natural lighting and colorful seating where students like to hang out with their friends as well as have lunch, as you can see with those tables there. And right next to our service hub, we have our hub cafe, which is where you can grab a quick bite, and they have a variety of different food options here that are also accessible to our students with meal plans. So throughout this building, the podium building, in addition to the service hub, we also have a variety of student services. And I'll mention a few of them today. So one of them is our tri-mentoring program. And this, it is a mentoring program based on the name, and it works 3 ways. So we have one way, which is the peer-to-peer mentoring, where our first-year students are able to be matched with upper-year students who are in their same program. So, they've been in your shoes, they can answer any questions that you have related to your program. And then we have the career mentoring aspect of it, where our upper-year students are able to be matched with industry experts in their field of interest. So, they can hit the ground running when they graduate, and they have their connection in the industry that they're interested in already. And we also have the third aspect of tri-mentoring, which is group mentoring. So students who identify as part of an equity-seeking group are provided with, a safe space where they can connect and share experiences. And this includes groups such as women in STEM, students with disabilities, mature students, LGBTQ students. And then another service I'll mention in this building is our Career and Co-op Center. So they basically provide students with help for career development. So they'll help you with your resume writing, cover letter writing. They'll also have mock interview sessions. So if you're looking to prepare for your very first interview, they can do that with you as well. And a really cool thing about this service is that it's available to our students up to 5 years after they graduate. So, once you graduate from Ryerson, we don't just kind of let you go off without supporting you. So Ryerson is there if you need to, find some more support, you can always come back. And I'll mention also our International Student Support Office, so ISS for short. And as an international student, the International Student Support Office was super helpful for me, especially in my first year. They provide international students with help basically adjusting to life in Canada, life at Ryerson. They help you reach, your personal goals and professional goals as well. They can answer any questions that you have, whether that's, like technical stuff, like how do I file my taxes? How do I apply for a study permit? Things like that. They're there to support you as you come to live in a new country. So yeah, that's just really cool. And they also provide a lot of community building events. So that's how I met a lot of the friends that I have today through the events that the International Student Support Office provided. A really cool new thing in this building is our Ryerson Law School. So it's new, completely new, started its first class in September 2020, so just 2 months ago. And Ryerson's approach to legal education is pretty unique. It's innovative, inclusive, experiential, basically trying to have a 21st century approach to legal education. So they kind of try and, in addition to teaching students what students would normally learn in law school, also teach them the ways in which that they can leverage technology in law. So yeah, one more thing I'll mention, which is actually on screen right now, is Jorgensen Hall. So Laura's kind of hovering over it. And that's where our Faculty of Arts is housed. So throughout the building, you'll find a lot of professor offices. So at Ryerson, we have a requirement for professors to provide students with a minimum number of hours each week where students can drop in, to ask any questions related to their course content, or even just to build that connection with their professor. And that's something that I really love about Ryerson. It's how personal it feels, especially because already off the bat, we have a 25-to-1 professor to student ratio. So, even in the classroom, you'll be getting to know your professor, but having that, professor office hours is just really great in addition to that, because you know that you can always drop in and meet with your professors. And Laura already kind of showed you the campus map, but just to let you know, throughout the tour, we will be referring back to the campus map just to give you an idea of where we are. And yeah, so we'll be heading over to our second stop on campus, which is the Center for Urban Innovation.
Awesome. So the Center of Urban Innovation is just across the street from this building. So it'd be maybe like a 2 to 3 minute walk right outside there. And this building is a space for, it's a collaborative research space for solving urban infrastructure issues like alternative energy, water management, and smart urban infrastructure. So a couple of the labs that we have in here are data analytics, food research, laboratory for innovation in transportation, a nutrition discovery labs, and a smart urban infrastructure lab. A really cool initiative that came out of this collaborative workspace is Ryerson Urban Water, which is a partnership with WWF Canada to reduce salt levels on campus during the winter. So we managed to reduce 4,000 kilograms of salt on campus. And this initiative engaged over 150 students, which is another way we like to get our students involved on campus. And then graduate students created a net zero laneway design and took home a grand prize at the US Department of Energy Home Design event, which is pretty cool as well. And then walking over to our next stop, just through this arch, is the quad and Kerr Hall area.
Yes, I'm going to take you through the quad and through Kerr Hall. So Laura, if you could show right on the map where that is. It's kind of the main heart of campus, and it's that nice square building right in the middle. So it's actually our largest green space on campus. So a little fact about me is I am from up north. So for me, being in the city, it was kind of a big rush. And this felt really nice because if you could stand right in the middle of the quad, everything kind of silences. And another really big bonus is you always see dogs down here. If you're a dog lover, they always come out and they're playing. And there's also Wi-Fi. So at Ryerson, the way Wi-Fi works, which is kind of a tidbit to add, you only have to log in once, and then as you move, it will reconnect you to whatever building is close, so you don't have to reconnect every single time you move on campus. So if you want to be one of those students in the stock pictures where they sit in the middle of campus against a tree and they're doing homework, you can totally do that here because the Wi-Fi will reach to you. So a couple of events that we usually run here is we do have, yeah, there's your student studying on campus. We do run convocation on our quad, which is really gorgeous because we can run it outside. We also have tons of frosh events. So usually we have concerts in here. We also have our club fairs. So it's kind of a main event space for Ryerson. And then the building surrounding it, that nice giant square that I was talking about, is Kerr Hall. So Kerr Hall is split into north, south, east, and west. And I'm going to take you on a little bit of an insight into each one. So the first one we're going to look at is Kerr Hall North. Unfortunately, we can't go inside Kerr Hall North, but we can kind of look at it through the trees. And Kerr Hall North is home to the Ryerson Theatre. So this is one of the largest theatres in Toronto, and it's actually rented out by the Toronto International Film Festival each year. It's also used by our performance students. But basically for Toronto International Film Festival, they take over it completely. So we get red carpets, we get celebrities. I had a coworker who got her textbook signed by Leonardo DiCaprio. So it's up to you if you want to avoid this, if you're not a people person, or if you really want to like be a part of it. It also provides opportunities for our RTA School of Media students to come and basically practice their degree. So our journalism students will come and they'll interview stars, and we'll kind of give our students an option on how to practice their degree and get like that real life experience. We're gonna scoot over to Kerr Hall East. So this is personally my home most of the time. This is home to your science wing. So all of your labs, you can actually see a picture of, yeah, the physics labs. So this is what a typical physics lab will look like. We actually just got $4 million to renovate all of our labs, and that's why they look all nice and white and shiny and new. We do have up-to-date equipment, so you are working with equipment that you will be working with in the industry. So it's not like you have a whole other learning curve to overcome when you go into real life. Ryerson does teach you on the equipment you're going to use, and it's not As a science student, you're put into a lab right away. So within your first year, I think it's 3 weeks in, you have your first lab. And yes, it might seem scary, but you do have TAs. So TA is just a little kind of explanation. They're called teaching assistants, and basically their whole job is to get you through that lab. They're like a baby teacher, and they kind of help you through it. They answer all your questions, and they're there especially for you. We're going to look at Kerr Hall West now. So that's what, yeah, she's just going to scoot over a little bit. So Kerr Hall West is where we have our early learning center. So this is where students in ECS can actually complete their work placements with children from ages 0 to 4. So if you're ever on campus, if you're touring it, or if you do decide to go to Ryerson and you see children, do not be alarmed. They're here for a reason. It actually gets really cute. During Halloween, usually they do a little costume parade through all the offices in Ryerson. They're absolutely adorable. And again, it's giving our students a way to practice their degree right away. And you're not waiting until you've graduated to go practice it. And finally, we're going to look at Kerr Hall South. So Kerr Hall South is our home of fashion. So our fashion program is actually ranked 25 in the world, according to the Business of Fashion. And we received the best in global influence fashion communication. So we're best overall and best in learning experience and best in long-term value. So we've had a bunch of really, really cool ways that we've kind of incorporated more inclusive topics into our fashion. And we're actually offering the first non-binary design course. A second little tidbit is we do, if you go into Kerr Hall and you know you're in fashion, one, you'll always see mannequins being rolled around. And two, they have a little pink outline on their door. I don't know why, but I think it's just because they can, because they're in fashion. But it is a really great program. And again, you're using top of the line machinery, and that was those sewing machines you saw right at the side. So I'm going to hand it off to Salome, and she's going to take us through security and through our recreation.
Yeah, so before we head into talking about our athletics, I'll quickly talk to you a little bit about our security on campus. So if Laura will just scroll a little to the left, I can show you emergency poles. So all throughout campus, you'll notice these blue emergency poles, which Laura is hovering over right now. And basically, so like I said, they're found everywhere on campus. And it's because Ryerson is an open and public university campus. So, we like to prioritize the safety and security of the students. So these blue poles, basically how they work are, there are 2 buttons. So one of them is a help button. And once pressed, a security member is with you within seconds. So it actually triggers a loud and noisy, loud and bright signal. And there's a second button, which is just a talk button. So if you need assistance, you can talk to someone or also request someone to walk you somewhere. So that's part of our Walk Safe program. And our Walk Safe program is a 24/7 service where you can be paired up with a member of our security team to walk you to anywhere on campus, including our subway stations. So personally, I've never had to use it before. I know some students use it just to get from one side of campus to a McDonald's if it's late at night, for example. But yeah, variety of uses. And it's definitely great to know that there is that option on campus if you're ever feeling unsafe. So talking a little bit about athletics now, what you'll see on screen is the entrance to one of our 2 athletic facilities. So that is the entrance to our Recreation and Athletic Center, or the RAC for short. So like I said, one of our 2 athletic facilities, and in here you'll find a variety of offerings. So they can cater to all the different interests that you may have. They have, for example, a full-size swimming pool, an indoor running track, fitness center with weight rooms, squash courts, basketball courts, studio. So anything you can think of, you'll find here at the RAC. They have, so what we're looking at on screen right now is the studio. So that's where they host a lot of their classes. So they offer a variety of different classes that you can find on their website. For example, meditation classes, spin classes, dance classes. So just different options. There's actually something really cool. So our swimming pool, they also offer kayak lessons. So that's cool. You could be taking kayak lessons at Ryerson underground. So I don't know if I mentioned that, but our recreation athletic center is actually located underground, so underneath the quad where we were just now. And that's because Ryerson likes to maximize the space that we use because we are downtown. And before we head over to our second athletic facility, I'll just mention that we have hours specific for people who identify as women or non-binary. So if you are more comfortable using that space during those hours, you're welcome to as well. So I'll talk to you a little bit about our Mattamy Athletic Center. So if Laura would just head over to the campus map very briefly, I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about where that is located on campus. So where we are right now is where Laura, the MAC is up there. So it's about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the center of campus. And it is one of the further buildings on campus. But one thing at Ryerson that you should know is that we run classes 10 minutes after the hour. So you always have a 10-minute window to get from one class to the next. And it doesn't take longer than 10 minutes to walk from one side of campus to the other. And also, this is the Mattamy Athletic Center, so you wouldn't be having classes inside the Mattamy Athletic Center. So we're looking at the inside of the Mattamy Athletic Center right now, and it actually was home to the Toronto Maple Leafs before, so it's located inside the former site of the Maple Leaf Gardens. And because of this, Ryerson, recognizes that it has a lot of historical significance to the city of Toronto. And we tried to keep as many of the original features of the building as possible. So that includes, when you walk inside the building, you'll notice that the original wall is still there, as well as some of the original red seats. And then a really cool thing is when you walk throughout this building, you'll notice black and white images that kind of showcase some of the historical events that took place here. And those were actually prepared by our art and history students. So, just a variety of ways on campus that you can get involved with the community. So what we're looking at right now is our Coca-Cola court. So that is a basketball and volleyball court. It's where our athletes train, and it's multi-purpose. So it's not only a basketball and volleyball court, we also host events here and exams as well. So like I mentioned previously, because we're downtown, we try to maximize the use of our space. So we do hold exams here as well as on our hockey rink, just because you can fit a lot of students from different programs in this one space. And it actually cuts our exam period shorter because you're able to get more exams done at once. So yeah, that's cool. And going back to the very beginning, right there, that's our fitness center. So very similar to what you would have seen in our recreation and athletic center. You can come and work out here, and it's also where our athletes train. So I think it's a good time to mention that at Ryerson, your gym membership is included in your tuition. So you're able to come and access this space whenever you like. So I talked a lot about the athletics. I think we're going to be heading back to the main part of our campus just to talk to you a little bit about the Rogers Communication Center.
So the Rogers Communication Center, or RCC for short, is so from the MAC would be again like 5 to 10 minutes, but if you're just coming from the quad or the rack, it would maybe be like max 5 minutes, depending on the lights and pedestrian traffic and all that. But the Rogers Communication Center is a building that has classroom and studio spaces for our students in the Faculty of Communication and Design. So programs like journalism, the RTA School of Media, interior design, creative industry, et cetera, all those kind of creative programs would be within this faculty. And so something really cool about our RT School of Media is that it has been ranked top 15 by the Hollywood Reporter. And we have a bunch of cool partnerships with different companies, like the Universal Music Group with Ryerson's Music, Google, Bell Media, Audible, Cirque du Soleil. So that's pretty great exposure for a lot of our FCAD students. And the interior of this building has a lot of studios for students to get that hands-on experience. The first one being the Alan Slate Radio Institute. We got a donation from Alan Slate, hence the name of the radio station, the studio. And the FCAD students have the possibility of creating their own podcasts and radio shows. And they get to, again, use all that industry level equipment. They get to kind of go through all aspects of that program, whether they want to be kind of working on like the editing, or do they want to be actually talking on the podcast, so they get exposed to everything. We also have something called the Equipment Distribution Center that students usually refer to as the Cage. And basically it works like a library, but for technology. We do recognize some tech is pretty expensive. So laptops, lenses, cameras, tripods, things like that, you can rent out as if you were renting out a book. And then you obviously bring it back. Well, you're not renting it out, you're just like borrowing it. You don't pay for it, which is really convenient for our FCAD students. And we have a similar service for all students in the library. We also have a space on the second floor of this building called the Catalyst, which is a space dedicated to scholarly research and creative activities and projects. There's also different events like workshops, speakers, receptions, which is really cool as well. And my personal favorite thing about this building is this bridge, because it connects you basically from like the subway. I walk outside for like 2-3 minutes to get to our student learning center, and then I walk inside the whole way, and then I'm in the RCC, and then I cross the street and go to the engineering building where a lot of my labs and classes are, which is super convenient when it's cold or raining, windy, anything. I just like to walk inside. It's a little bit more comfortable for me. So that's one of my favorite things about campus, that a lot of the buildings are connected. So inclement weather calls for, you can use all these little bridges. And I think that will take us to our residence portion of the tour. And we have a representative from housing that will speak to you about that.
Hi everyone, I'm Trishana and I am here to talk to you about all things housing and residence. So Ryerson Residence has approximately 1,144 beds across our 3 buildings. So that would be Pittman Hall, or PIT for short, the International Living and Learning Center, or ILC, and the Daphne Cockwell Complex, or DCC. And before we actually go into each of the room styles, a couple of things I like to mention. We're currently maintaining a 1-to-1 ratio of 1 student per washroom, and that's being implemented particularly for our shared room styles for the health and safety of all our students due to COVID-19. And there are multiple room style options for you to choose from across all of our buildings. And on your residence application, you will be able to rank your room preferences. Our top priority is actually getting you into residence, and then we would try our best to match you with your top choices. And all of the buildings have an 8-month contract that goes from September throughout April. Another thing, regardless of the building that you get into, you would be able to access all of the resources that we have to offer you. So that includes a residence advisor, which is an upper year student that lives in your community, so 1 on every floor. And they basically conduct weekly meetings and just touch base with you to keep you updated on what's happening in residence. You would also be able to access academic links, which are also upper year students in your department or faculty that can help you with anything related to academics. So course enrollments, learning how to navigate RAMs. And finally, living and learning communities where you would be able to connect with other students based on personal or academic interests. Finally, regardless of the building that you're in, you would be able to access the 2 cafeterias that we have on campus, one in Pittman Hall and one in the International Living and Learning Center. So jumping into the actual room styles, we're beginning with the International Living and Learning Center, or ILC. So on your screen here, you're seeing the resident service desk. So we have one of these in the lobby area of each of our 3 buildings, and they're equipped with our resident service desk agents, and they're there to welcome you 24/7 and act as secure access points. So basically, they ensure that only those who have permission to access residents do so. And you would be able to do so by scanning your residence ID at the front desk, and then they would let you up. Another thing that happens at the resident service desk, we do collect your mail and packages for you down there. So you would never have to worry about tracking your mail and wondering where it is, because we do send you an automatic email notification once we collect your mail for you. Jumping into the actual room styles, we can start with the ILC single room. So that's basically a private bedroom and washroom. So you would have access to your own bedroom and washroom and this desk area and study space. And you would also have access to the main common room, which there's one on every floor with a fully equipped kitchen. So that includes a stove, microwave, and fridge. So you would be able to have your own room and share that common living space with other members on your floor. And throughout all of the room styles, not just this one, all the furniture that you see in the room comes with the room. So you don't have to worry about bringing a bed and a desk or anything like that. Moving on to the double room. So the ILC double room, it's a bedroom that is shared between 2 students, and then you would also have to share the bathroom with that other student. As I mentioned in the beginning, due to COVID-19 measures, we're implementing a 1-to-1 ratio of 1 student per washroom. So this room style is currently not being offered, but typically that's what it would be. 2 students sharing that space and a bathroom, and again, they would have access to the common space on every floor. Moving on to Pittman Hall. Actually, before I get into the room styles on Pittman Hall, I would like to say that the International Living and Learning Center, it's not a building just for international students. You can apply to any of the buildings, that's just the name of the building. So international students can live in any of the buildings, Canadian students can live in any of the buildings, it doesn't matter. It is, however, a building that many of our international students prefer because it's the only one that stays open throughout the winter break, which is currently approaching. So yeah, so we're currently in the front lobby of Pittman Hall. So as you can see, we have another service desk. And moving on to the actual room styles, we can begin with the pit. This is the pit paired. So in the pit paired, you would have 2 students sharing a 3-piece bathroom and a mini living space. So basically you would have your own bedroom and you would be sharing that small living space with another student, but then you would also have access to the common area present on every floor as well. Moving on to the apartment style. The apartment rooms have 4 or 5 students sharing 1 to 2 bathrooms. So you and 1 or 2 other students would be paired up to the bathrooms in the suite. And it's also a room style it's also the apartment style has a fully equipped kitchen. So if cooking is something you think you may want to do when you come to residence, it's definitely a room style I would check out. Besides this space, you would also have access to the common area on your floor as well. On to the next room style, I believe it's the pit double room. you would be sharing the room with one other student, and the bedroom is actually the only thing that you would be sharing with that one other student. The bathroom is outside of the living space, so you would be sharing the bathroom with other students on your floor, but not to worry about that because it's usually a decent ratio of students to bathrooms on the floor. So I think it's about 2 students per washroom. So it's never a situation where it gets overcrowded and you don't have access to a bathroom. Again, you would have access to the common space on your floor with a fully equipped kitchen. And finally, the pit single room. Basically, you would have your own bedroom and you would be sharing the bathroom and the living space with everyone else on your floor. And finally, for DCC, we currently don't have, we're still working on the visuals for the DCC building for you guys, but it is our newest residence buildings and the room style is 2-bedroom and 4-bedroom. So the lower half of the building, it's an interdisciplinary space that our nursing, midwifery, occupational, and public health and safety students use. And the top half of the building is our residence space. And I must say, I'm currently living in DCC right now, and I've had the opportunity over my 4 years here at Ryerson to live in each of our residence buildings. And all of the buildings have unique features that I think you would all love about. So I encourage you to apply since we have more spaces than ever before with the opening of DCC. And if you require any more information, please feel free to check out our website at www.ryerson.ca/housing or send us an email at housing@ryerson.ca. And if you're on Instagram, feel free to check us out at RU Housing. So we usually do in-depth tours of all our room styles, including DCC, the 2 and 4 bedrooms. So you may not have seen it here today, but our Instagram stories, we do have those frequently. So that's it for the housing aspect of the tour today. So I'm going to pass you back over to the other student ambassadors.
Yeah, thank you, Shoshana. A couple things I want to mention before we continue is actually, Shoshana made me think of it. Just because a building at Ryerson is named after a faculty does not mean that only that faculty lives in that building. For example, the Rogers Communication Center, which we saw just before this, is actually open to absolutely everybody. I personally had an organic chemistry and a calculus class in there, which have nothing to do with communication. So as a student, you will be spread all across campus, and it's a great way to also get to know campus. So a poll will be coming your way. Frank is just going to launch it now, and it's basically just asking you, what is your main reason for considering residence? So feel free to answer that while I kind of talk to you about the DCC. So a couple things I do want to mention is the DCC, how Shoshana said the bottom half is school and the top half is residence. Totally true, but there is a security barrier between the two sections. So me, a non-resident student, cannot just walk upstairs and go into some person's room. There are security measures that make sure, 1, you are a resident student, and 2, this is your correct building. I just always mention that because I think it's very odd if you don't, and then people think anyone can just walk up there. So DCC, yes, so we're just going to show you, there's DCC. Laura, if you can point to Ilk as well. So Ilk is, right over there, and then Pittman. So that's the 3 residences that we were just talking about, and that's kind of their location compared to like the center of campus. So DCC is a very new and exciting building. Unfortunately, we don't have any pictures inside. We do have a video that we're not going to show you today, but you can totally look it up. If you just type in Daphne Coxwell Health Sciences Complex video. I know it's a mouthful, but you can do it. A couple cool things about this building is the Creative Technology Lab. So it's actually located on the lower level and is accessible to all FCAD students. So they have access to 3D printers, laser cutters. There's a robotic arm that they have in there that not all universities have, and Ryerson actually gained it through a government grant. So that's, while again showing that while it is an occupational and public health building, it does also have FCAD lab right at the bottom. So I'm going to hand it over as we head to our next location.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to talk to you a little bit about an exclusive stop on our virtual tour. So you wouldn't normally get to see this stop if you were doing a regular campus tour on campus, which is our green roof. So it is a 1.2 acre farm on top of our engineering and computing building. And it was actually a student-led initiative from the students in our nutrition and food programs. So really cool. It produces about 9,000 pounds of produce and is also home to 3 beehives. So the cool thing about our green roof is that the produce that we grow here is actually sold at our Ryerson farmers markets, which we have throughout the spring and summer months, every Wednesday, I believe. And students can go and buy fresh produce that was grown on campus. And also another cool thing is that it's actually distributed to our various eateries on campus. So like I mentioned at the first stop on our tour, we had our hub cafe. So when you're eating on campus, you know that Ryerson is kind of promoting growing local and healthy food. So that's just really cool. And I think I'll hand it to Martha to talk to you a little bit about the building that we're on top of, the engineering building, because I know it is part of her faculty.
Awesome. Yes, so computer science. It's just across the street from DCC, so 2-minute walk from DCC, and the roof was on top of that building. So it is the Engineering and Computing Center. So the lower ground floor, the first floor, the third and fourth are spaces for engineering students. And then the second floor is for computer science students. So we have our labs there, research labs and professors' offices. So just showing you a couple of the lab spaces, the concrete lab that our civil engineering students in third and fourth year use. They get to make and test concrete, see what makes good and bad quality concrete. My sister actually finished this program, and the concrete lab was one of her favorite things because it was so hands-on and you actually got to like play with concrete, I guess they'd like to say. And then on this lower ground floor, we also have an aerospace lab for our aerospace engineering students, where they get to take apart and put together parts of planes, and then they get to test them against the elements as well. And then some really cool things just about engineering and computer science. They do have co-ops, which is always great to get a little bit of experience, expose yourself to your field, kind of see what you like and what you don't like within that field. I did a quality assurance internship for 4 months, which was really great to kind of expose me to how the whole software development cycle works in a real company, which was really beneficial for me. And then back to academics, there are a lot of research opportunities. Your professors, especially in STEM, is to do research. So they're always looking for volunteers. My own personal story, I took a robotics class in second year. And I found it so interesting that I really wanted to learn more about it. So I emailed my teaching assistant about it and asked if he had any volunteer opportunities, and he did. And I was working alongside my teaching assistant on a robot that diffused bombs, which was really cool experience that not a lot of computer science students would get. So it was a great learning experience as well. And then an academic club we have at Ryerson is the Ryerson robotics team, which is a collaboration between engineering students and computer science students. Everyone using their strengths to create these robots. And our robotics team placed second in a Mars rover competition in Utah in 2019, beating out Stanford, MIT, and Michigan University, which just tells you how great our robotics team is. And then another cool kind of club we have is the concrete canoe and concrete toboggan, that our civil engineering students have obsession with concrete, make canoes and toboggans and compete against different schools. And Ryerson actually took first place in the concrete toboggan competition in Alberta. And just to know, it's not closed off just to civil engineering students, but it's usually them because of that love for concrete. And going to our next stop will be Zoe.
Yeah, so I'm going to take you to the SCC. So if you're currently on the other side of the screen wondering how they make concrete float, you are not alone. I also wonder that on a daily basis. It is kind of a novel that these engineers have mastered. So actually, Laura, we're going to stay on this map for just a second. So she's showing you where SCC is. So SCC is the Student Campus Center. As you can see, Ryerson loves their acronyms, mostly because we name our buildings very long names. And what I wanted to mention is Martha kind of talked about this before, is the bridge going all the way from the SLC to the RCC. And that street going right across that way is actually called Gold Street. So this was newly made fully pedestrian by Ryerson. So basically the city gave us our street, and we just went under a whole campus revitalization project where they put in a bunch of trees, they put in more spaces where we can hold events. So they put patio furniture, all that lovely stuff. So it acts like part of our main core of our campus, and there's no more cars coming through anymore. So we're going to switch back to the tour screen. We also host, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name, farmers markets, my bad, that sell our produce from our roofs back to our students, selling it at a lower price, and it's way healthier with a lot less chemicals. Okay, so the building we are in right now, Student Campus Center. This building is run for students by students. There will never be a class that you have in this building. It's one of the very few on campus that don't have any classrooms. What I'm going to start to talk to you about today is our clubs. So our clubs at Ryerson, Ryerson brands itself on having diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we have 146 countries represented on our campus with over 80 languages spoken. That translates to about 70 clubs that are of interest. So basically you can have a club from interest, culture, or faith, and then you can build it off of that. If there is a club that you want to start and you just somehow you found a niche and you're like, okay, people who like watching TV and eating pizza at the same time, and you're like, I'm going to create a club for that, you can also do that. So this is where our front desk really comes in. Yeah, she's going to slide over. This desk is the answer to most of your problems. And this is where you can start your own club. You just have to have 15 people signing off that they're going to be in your club. This is also where you will find discounted movie tickets, discounted museum tickets. You can get your TTC student card. You have to fill out the form here and go take a picture somewhere else. But this is basically the hub of student discounts. Ryerson Student Union, as you can see, RSU there, is also run out of this building. So that is our major student union on campus. You will also see Caesar is out of here as well. So Caesar is the continuing education student union. And most students are actually a part of both student unions because they can take classes at night through continuing education. So another thing I want to mention, which is I think one of my favorite things in this building, is Oakham Lounge. This place, the bacon is heavenly, the hash browns are heavenly. It is a cafe. So it's a student-run cafe, and it's a great opportunity for students to get jobs on campus. And basically, they serve breakfast throughout the whole day. You can come and relax with friends. You can get work done. You can just say, I am not doing any more work today. I'm going to go eat some bacon. And it could be 11 at night when you do this. In here, we also have our own pub. So it's called Ram in the Rye, and it's a Ryerson run pub. The connection through this building has been closed, so you do have to go around, like right across the street from the engineering building. And this is again a pub that is run by Ryerson. So this means it is a hub for students to get jobs. You can actually still go in if you're under 18, but you cannot drink until you're 19. So if you want to hang out with your friends and get and watch the Raptors game, but you can't get into bars downtown, this is the place to go. And it's a nice central campus place too, where you'll always meet friends. Some course unions, so for biology, there's something called the Biology Course Union, and they run pub nights. So they'll run events where you can meet people in your program, and you can kind of connect with people and make friends that way. I'm gonna hand it back over to Salome. We are heading to the SLC.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about the Student Learning Center. So we'll just have it on screen. So our Student Learning Center, SLC for short, is basically a community space for students where, our students can study and hang out between and after classes. So it's also connected to a Ryerson library, which is about a 10-floor building where we have over $500,000 worth of books and resources for students to access, which they can also access online. So throughout the library building, as well as our student learning center, there's also collaborative workrooms where students can book and work on group projects together. So the Student Learning Center, or SLC for short, is one of my favorite buildings on campus because it is beautifully designed. So each floor actually has a dedicated theme. And one of the floors that we're looking at right now is the beach. So you'll notice it's called the beach because, the wooden floors kind of represent the sand, with the blue carpet representing the sea. So as you can see on screen, it's kind of like a hangout space. You wouldn't typically come here to get work done. They have beanbag chairs, just really comfy space. It's basically a really comfy space for students to hang out between classes. And it's usually pretty noisy here as well. But another floor that we have is the garden, which is a dedicated floor to our academic support. So they provide our students with math or writing help, as well as, academic accommodations for students who may require services to help with their learning needs. So it's obviously, as you can see, all green, so hence why it's called the garden. And here you'll also see some space for students to sit and work as well. And then our 8th floor, which is the top floor, is called the Sky, and it has beautiful skyline views, the best views that you'll have on campus of the city. And you'll notice on screen, it's kind of like both individual and group study space. So it is a bit quieter up here. So you can come and get work done and also just hang out with friends. But then as we scroll, you'll notice that there are kind of these glass doors, and those are actually the work rooms that I mentioned earlier that students are able to book throughout this building, as well as the library building. So if you have like group projects that you need to work on, you can book these spaces to come and meet with your groups. And then I'll let Martha talk a little bit about zone learning.
Awesome. So something kind of unique to Ryerson is zone learning. We have these 10 zones, which are business incubators that are open to all students, not just entrepreneurs and businessmen. So if you ever have any idea for a startup, you can talk to one of the zones and kind of help get that idea rolling. They do give out grants sometimes to ideas that they see a lot of potential in. So some facts about these zones that, just to let you know, we have over 3,500 startups incubated to date. We've raised $750 million in funding. Over 4,000 jobs have been created, and we have over 5,200 members and alumni a part of these zones. And if you don't necessarily have an idea, but you still want to get involved, they do offer internships there and jobs as well on campus, which is really convenient for our students to get involved. So some of the companies that have been created out of these zones. So from the fashion zone, the jewelry company called Meadery. Personally, I've started to see it grow a lot. I see their ads on the subway all the time. And it's really cool because they make a priority to hire women. Another cool one from Fashion Zone as well is Inkbox. So temporary tattoos that last about 3 weeks. If you've ever heard of that company. They also do use Inkbox on the Netflix show Stranger Things. So business is booming for a lot of our companies that have been started by Ryerson students, and it's something we really like to pride ourselves on. We also have a zone called the DMZ, which is actually was ranked #1 university-based incubator in the world. It's typically companies that have already started generating revenue, but just need a little more help scaling up. And it is a tech-based company. So some cool companies that have been created here is Access Now, which is the Yelp for accessible venues. And it's used in over 35 countries. which is a really cool company as well. So some student involvement within the DMC, because it is a tech-based thing. A lot of our computer science students can do their co-ops here if they want to get into software development, which is really nice to kind of help out your students with co-ops and finding a job and getting that experience as well. And if anyone, I don't know if you have any stories from the zone specifically, so I'll hand it over to you.
Personally, no, but I'm going to use our last 5 minutes. We're going to head over to Ted Rogers to look at our business school. So Laura's just going to show you it on the map first, because it is a little more outside than the rest of campus. It's still within that 10-minute radius. And basically our Ted Rogers School of Management, she's going to show you right on the map. Right there we go. Perfect. So it's right in that bottom corner. So I'm going to hand it over to Salome, as it's her home faculty, and she's going to tell you a little about our business school.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible because we have 5 minutes left. But our business school is accredited by the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business. So that's a mouthful. But essentially what they do is they recognize business schools for integrity, engagement, and innovation. And a cool thing is that only 5% of business schools worldwide have this accreditation. So really cool that we have it. And it is one of the largest business schools in Canada in terms of student population, as well as we have one of the largest co-op programs, which includes national and international opportunities that our students are able to have. And throughout the building, we actually have our largest lecture hall on campus with 500 seats. So that's our auditorium, which we are looking at right now. And good thing to know is that you'll never have a class of 500 students because, like I mentioned at the beginning of tour, we typically have a 25-to-1 professor to student ratio. So they typically like to section off your larger classes into smaller sections. So, you have a more personal interaction with your professor as well as your peers. And then in the building, we also have a variety of rooms that are used for networking events, including our CPA lounge. So we'll look at it on screen right now. So this is where they host a lot of different networking events, because we are steps away from the financial district in Toronto. So we have a lot of connections within the industry. And so we have a lot of guest speakers who come for events and, just various networking opportunities that our students are able to get involved with. And I'll mention 2 services throughout this building. So one of them is our Business Career Hub. So our Business Career Hub is kind of similar to the Ryerson Career and Co-op Center, which I mentioned at the beginning of tour, where they help students with resume writing, cover letter writing, mock interviews. The only difference is that this one is specific to our business students, and they specialize in the various programs of the faculty. So for example, they have career consultants for each program. So myself being in hospitality and tourism management, I have one career consultant in the Business Career Hub who specializes in the hospitality and tourism management field. So, they can kind of cater to my needs in terms of, trying to find connections and, jobs in that industry. And another cool thing that I'll mention about the Business Career Hub is that they actually host boot camps. So the boot camps were actually created because they wanted to bridge the gap between the curriculum, so what students are learning in the classroom and what the market requires. So, they have basically identified what skills employers have said students have been lacking in the past, and kind of created these boot camps as a way for students to learn outside of the classroom, technical skills that they might need to know, as well as non-technical skills. So some technical skills might be boot camp on how to use Salesforce or Excel or things like that. I've done a number of these boot camps. And they're really helpful, because they're also included in your tuition. So I definitely recommend, if you're part of this faculty, to go to those events, and they're actually hosting virtual boot camps now that everything is moved online. So you still have access to those services. And also, I forgot to mention, but these are actually industry-led. So usually alumni from the faculty who are now working in the field will come back and kind of teach you about the different skills that you might need later on. And one more service I'll mention in this building is our Academic Success Center. So similar to the writing and math support that you would find in our Student Learning Center, this is basically a support service for our students in our business faculty, where they help students, with tutoring, writing and math support. They also host group tutoring sessions that are specific to classes in the faculty. So you can go and be tutored by an upper year student in your faculty or your programs, an upper year student in your program who actually took the course and succeeded, and they can kind of give you all the tips that helped them succeed in the course if you need them. And so that is actually the end of our tour. But before we kind of say our goodbyes, we wanted to launch one more poll for you to kind of find out what excites you most about starting university. And while you answer that poll, I wanted to also highlight that if you're interested in learning more about the student experience, either from an international student like myself or a domestic student, you also have the opportunity to meet one-on-one with us for a 30-minute session where we're happy to share more about our experiences and answer any questions that you have. So if that sounds like something that interests you, feel free to, in the Q&A box, to send a question asking for the link, and we'll be happy to share that with you. But thank you.
All right, I am back. Hello, everyone. So thanks, Salome, Zoe, Martha, and also Trishana, I believe, also presented about our Ryerson residences. So again, thank you everyone for joining us here today. We're going to be now shutting down our audio and video, but we'll still be online for a few more minutes to answer any final questions that you might have. So please continue to send those questions in if you do have any. I also encourage you, if you received an answer to one of your questions and you think it's something that you need to record, do record it down somewhere, because once I end this webinar, a record of that answer won't be sent to you afterward. So I'm just looking at the Q&A right now, seeing if there's any other final questions. Oh, actually, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if our students might want to address this question, but there was a question that came in from a student who's asking about, is university life hard or stressful? So I guess maybe if, as students who have, most of you are kind of you're already past first year. So what was that experience like transitioning from high school to university? Maybe if you want to quickly highlight one student service that you thought was helpful in helping you ease that transition.
I can totally answer this. So the hardest thing for me transitioning from high school to university was, honestly, my biggest fear was, where do I sit in a lecture hall, which sounds really silly, but it's just something that kept nagging at me in the back of my mind. And what really helped was actually the tri-mentoring program. So I kind of found it later on in second semester, but I would definitely look out first semester, because everything that you think you're stressing about and you think is, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of the world, somebody went through that already, and they connect you with somebody who has all those answers. So honestly, the TMP program, the tri-mentoring program, sorry, I keep using abbreviations, would be my highlight for first years.
Sorry. If you want to chime in on that.
Sorry, I can talk about my experience a little bit. My studying techniques from high school did not work super great for university. So I actually started attending crash courses that usually the upper year students that already took the course and did well in the course were tutoring. That makes sense, right? So I always attend those just because they probably had the same professor. They know the tips and tricks. They obviously got an A, so their techniques were working. And I found that to be really helpful just because they kind of gave me the studying techniques for a university course.
Yeah, and then just also to chime in, for me as an international student, like I said, when I was talking on the tour, for me, what helped a lot was the International Student Support Office because, you're talking with upper year students as well who are also international, and you can kind of share those experiences of like not only transitioning from high school to university, but also transitioning from one country to another. But in addition to that, I was in residence in my first year, which I think helped a lot in terms of adjusting to the university life, especially because you have that academic link, which we mentioned, which is an upper year student who is there to, who is actually in your faculty and who can help you with any of those academic questions that you might be wondering.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your insights. So that brings us to the end of our session. As I mentioned, so again, if you received any answers in the Q&A that you want to record, I highly recommend you do that right now. This also kind of wraps up our events for this week of our virtual open house. But if you're also interested in any of our other programs, I do also recommend you check out our Ryerson at Home website. We have another full week of webinar events scheduled for November 16th to the 20th. For example, I see there is a question about how hands-on is our performance programs. For that, I know our School of Performance is doing a 3-hour event happening next Tuesday, November 17th. So I highly recommend you sign up for that. So on behalf of Ryerson University, thank you once again for joining us here today. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope we can see you at other sessions happening next week. Bye now.